Alright, whenever I talk about gaining political power, whenever I give the advice to young men to join a political party, to push it in a good direction, whenever I say that you should contest the levers of power in society, there's always a bunch of tough guys, anonymous of course, who start talking about violence here and violence there. Now I understand for many young guys they want to be cool and edgy and say radical things, but we're not really in a position where we can entertain their emotions. So now we need to think logically about how we can save our civilization so that we no longer need to hear about these nightmarish crimes being committed against our peoples. So therefore we need to be crystal clear in our communication. Now I also want to say a few things about violence before getting into the history lesson of today. I'm gonna give you a history lesson from Sweden's recent past. But first I want to say something about violence. Whenever you say that violence is required, it's like saying that you need oxygen to survive. It's, of course, you need violence for everything. You need violence to collect taxes, you need violence to get people to, obey the law. So it's something so natural, so obvious that it's unnecessary to say it. And from my perspective, when I see someone talking about violence in this way, I only see someone who wants to sound edgy for the sake of it. Yes, the police, they're using violence every day to detain criminals and to deport criminals as well in many cases. So yes, violence is already being used to restore order. It's just that we need to get into a position where we can increase it so that more criminals are being deported. So whenever you say that violence is necessary, yes, again, violence is necessary to do anything. To uphold a society, you need violence, explicit or implicit. It's something so obvious, so you don't need to say it. So everyone is for violence. Everyone is for the police using violence to put bad guys into prison. So nothing strange, nothing out of the ordinary there. Now anyway, we need to look at Sweden's recent history, because I've seen some comments saying that violence, ideologically motivated violence, will result in something good. And I will post this to YouTube and I will post it to X. And in the X post I will tag Magnus Söderman, and you can ask him directly. You can tag Magnus here and ask him, Magnus, is this true? You can ask him. So don't ask Grock if it's true, ask Magnus Söderman if it's true. Ask him straight away now, if you're watching this on X, ask him if it was a good thing that the nationalist movement or the skinhead movement during the 90s in Sweden, that they used indiscriminate violence. Ask him if that was a good way forward for the nationalist movement. He's gonna say no, it was not a good thing, it was not productive, it didn't lead to anything good. On the contrary, it actually halted the political progress of, say, the Sweden Democrats. So eventually, these nationalists during those years, they came to understand that violence on the streets doesn't lead to anything productive. It's a dead end, it's not constructive in the least. It will not bring us the results we want. So they started the Sweden Democrats instead, and now they are the second largest party in Sweden. And the violent movement from that time, it has continuously haunted the Sweden Democrats since the 90s basically. So they still have to contend with that legacy from that time. And we can only conclude that it was something bad, this uncontrolled violence. Now I'm gonna say something also, that I'm not gonna condemn anyone who joined any movement during the 90s because it was done in self-defense. That's something to keep in mind, that it was a response to aggression against Swedish youth during those years. It was a healthy impulse at first to organize and to, stand up for yourself and everything, but it escalated in a destructive, semi-criminal direction. And again, talk to the guys who were active during those years. I was a boy during the 90s, so I can't say for sure. I'm only listening to the guys who were active then. So again, ask Magnus Söderman, ask him, was this a productive way forward? And he would say, no, it was not. I wish we had done things differently. But they didn't have any older guys who could tell them what a good direction was. But now we can say that now at least. So please listen to him. Listen to Magnus Söderman when he says that unprovoked violence is not something productive. And I say this as well, that you have a legal right and a moral right to fight back if you are attacked. And I say that you should train MMA, you should have trusted brothers by your side so you can defend yourself. That does not mean to attack random strangers on the street. So using violence in this way, it has been tested, and we can just conclude that it didn't bring any results. I talked to a Russian man a few years ago, and he had been active during the chaotic years in Moscow during the late 90s, early 2000s, and he said something similar, that, you know, they used quite brutal violence. I'm sure you can find videos from that time in Moscow, Russia, where you had Russian neo-Nazis, or whatever they should be called. They used quite a bit of violence against non-Russians in Moscow. It didn't lead to anything, and he said so himself. It didn't lead to anything. Then he realized that this is a waste of time. It's just gonna land us in prison with absolutely no result whatsoever, except that we get to feel cool and we get to feel the rush of adrenaline by beating up some random individual. Then he came to the conclusion that it's more productive to actually build something, to actually try to, again, contest the positions of power, try to get wealthy, all of these things, so you can actually leverage real power, because real power is not street fighting. Real power is when you actually go into the parliament and you try to change legislation. Now, when I say that we need to engage in the political arena, it's not enough. We also need to engage in the legal arena, so to speak. We need to have good individuals in the courts, because as we have it right now, we have this case from Sweden where you had young Swedish girl being raped, and there was a left-wing extremist woman, you can see the picture here, and she decided that since the rape didn't last for long enough, the individual, I can't say more because we have hate speech laws and I don't want to get into any trouble with the police, so I can't say too much, but yeah, it was a non-European immigrant who raped this young girl. He's not deported because she is in power there. She made the call. So when I say that we need to replace these individuals in these positions of power, that is what I mean, because unless we do, they will continue to torment us. So that's a perfect example when we're talking about having good individuals in these positions instead of having anti-white extremists. And this case now, it's international news, and I can only hope that this individual, this older woman, she is world famous for being a protector of rapists. So again, as in the case of Ireland I talked about yesterday, as long as these individuals, they are in these positions, they will give the rapist a slap on the wrist and then let him go, and then he can rape someone else in a few years or in a few months. We have so many cases here, and the solution again is to contest the positions of power. I know I'm repeating myself, but it needs to be said. And then I know there will be tough guys talking about other solutions, but yeah, we've heard this rhetoric for like 30 years now. It hasn't helped in the least. So you can continue to try that, or you can understand that the path to change lies within these institutions. So not only the political arena, but the entire society. Because right now they're tormenting us because they can, because they hold power over us. So even though we have a conservative government in place now, the deep state, the regime in Sweden, is still left-wing extremist. So those positions need to be cleared, and this is my message to anyone in the Sweden Democrats. Look at these positions, look at why on earth is this woman sitting here deciding that this rapist shouldn't be deported because the rape didn't last long enough. Get her to resign. You have some power now, at least, to do that. And this is also what I mean with, you need to go into politics so you can actually be the one who can leverage this power, because now, again, Sweden Democrats, 20% of the votes. That's a lot of power that could be leveraged. Now I know also the Sweden Democrats, they are fighting an uphill battle against the regime, against many other parties. I know the moderates, they are a bit tricky to deal with. Also a good reason to go into the moderates and push the party in a better direction so we can actually start deporting rapists. It's a perfectly normal thing to want. Now, on a similar note, I wanted to say something about tough guys. On a personal note, if you criticize me, remember that I'm a highly recognizable public figure. I've been so for 10 years. I'm always having world breaker here at the ready, because that's a price to be paid if you are a political dissident. It's very easy to be tough and edgy and radical when you're anonymous. Now, I will give some examples of truly tough guys here in Sweden. We have this fine young man, a sensitive young man, Lulle, 17 years of age, and he goes bravely to confront this left-wing extremists. That's a tough guy. He has courage, he has guts. If you want to be tough, do something like him. We have also Nick Alinia. he confronts these left-wing extremists. He makes them uncomfortable. That is doing something, and that is also tough, because Nika Linja, he also needs to be ever ready for violence being aimed against him. He approaches the matter in an intelligent way. He gets results. He puts the heat on the leftist. So if you do want to be tough in that way, do something like him. Or indeed Christian Petersson, which you might have seen. He chases away some would-be Antifa aggressors who wanted to ambush him in the night. He is also fearless in his... he's bringing the heat to these leftists. So these guys, they are tough, they are brave, and they're doing something productive. So if you do want to do something that is a bit dangerous in that way, yeah, go ahead, do something like that. That is actually productive. It helps our cause immensely. So shout out to these guys. These guys are tough. Now anyway, to conclude, the only way out of this mess, I know I repeat myself, but it needs to be said, regime change. And that entails us, good guys, good girls, getting into positions of power, so we can actually say that this is the law now. So, all that being said, thank you for watching, thank you for your support. XOXO, boom!